Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just get down to, oh, here we go. Got it. Okay. Yes, well, Colleen had sent out some attachments beforehand. Hopefully you all have access to them or can pull them up. We're planning on going like agenda wise, just basically starting with the one that sources and uses funds document, and just kind of going down through that first. And then just talking, got like a, then we'll look at the other two attachments, and then maybe the one cash flow at the end. But I think the sources and uses doc is a good, topics wise, that's a good one for, we can, look at. And really I don't have a formal presentation, but I want to talk about these things. And this is, for, when we're at our board meetings, there's really not enough time to delve into this stuff. And even in finance committee, like, our times, our times often ends up, nearing completion, and there's really not enough time to talk about it. So this is our time, we can ask questions and take as long as we need to get things figured out. So, Colin, you just want to share the sources and uses doc? And I'll start talking.
Okay.
Like the first one on the list
I
is,
have to leave it in an hour, so just
okay.
probably like, just one from your plans tonight. So I can catch the recording if it runs over.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. I don't think it'll take an hour, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the first source is proceeds, and here you hear us often talking about proceeds, and you see that line item on our sources, and on basically all of our financial stuff. It's like a proceeds line, and that's really, I'll talk about that a little later in when we pull up that purchase cycle chart thing. This graph, because I want to talk through that. But proceeds are basically the pot of money that we use to buy and renovate houses. And the money flows. That's a segregated part of our budget. It doesn't have its own like separate bank account, but accounting wise, that Colleen knows that like that's restricted use money. That's to buy houses with and to renovate them. But we can't like borrow money from it. We can't use it for operating expenses. That's our house buying and renovating money. So that's the proceeds. It's not a primary source. I mean, it's not a primary source of funds, as in it doesn't, money has to flow into that from elsewhere, which we'll get to, but that's our source of money to work on houses. And I'll come back to that in a few minutes here. Donations, that is a primary source of money. We have, basically that's normally money that's not restricted. Well, some of it is, but most of it's not restricted. That's just all of our fundraising efforts. That money that tends to go to operating expenses, really, because we have our proceeds pot of money to buy stuff with. But the donations, that's we tap that for operating funds. The program income, that is money that comes in, our program of, we got our portfolio of houses, and we have ground rent money that comes in for that. And we have other, assets that generate money. We have a little interest from our bank accounts. The money that we have in the state college, the foundation money, that's the interest typically, we could use that money if we wanted to, or we can let it ride and make our endowment there grow. but that could be tapped, the interest there. And as that grows, that's that will become more significant. Ultimately one day, if we have a huge endowment there, it'll throw off like a nice chunk of our budget. But for now, it's not that much yet.
Can I ask a question, Jay, or do you want me to say that?
Oh yeah, sure. Yes.
So what rental income are you talking about?
The monthly ground rents from our residents.
Ground rent from the residents.
From
For the
our
land.
property owners. There's a depending on when they purchased it, that'll depend on the size. It's about, it's $20 a month or $30 a month, or depending on when you purchased your house.
I didn't know that we charge rent for okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a nominal amount. I mean, but it's really, I think, I don't know if it's like legally, like maybe it does like kind of, codify the arrangement there. Like we own that land and you're renting it from us, sort of a nominal amount. We're not getting rich off of it or doing a lot with it, but
Right.
it's a nominal
$20 a
payment.
month now. Mhm. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then with the program income, that money we report to the borough, how much we're making and what we're spending it on. That's just to kind of keep them abreast of what we're doing. And yeah, that one actually, when I read that, I didn't really know that, Colleen, that we do that. Is there a particular reason that we have to do that, or is that just to show how responsible we are? So when we get money from them, they feel better about it? Or
I mean, we have to do it for both. We have to do it for proceeds as well as program income. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we like to do a quarterly report. So, and then just kind of tell them, and then some other things they know about, because how we get the money is it's a reimbursement. So we have to say, this is how much we spent on things. Please reimburse us for that amount, like in the Chodo operating support. But yeah, just to keep them apprised of it. But it's not onerous. It's just once a quarter. So.
Okay, thank you. And then United Way, we're a United Way agency. We have been for a few years now. And we do the ask, and we got all the money we asked for this year, I think, but which is kind of a surprise. But basically, that's however generally determined by how much the United Way raises in general. If they meet their goal, they can give out, generally give out what people ask, but if they come up short, then we get less money. That's not a huge source, but it's significant. I mean, it's a nice thousands of dollars. So the work, I mean, there's a fair amount of work going into like preparing the presentation. You've got their application is kind of big, and they've worked to make it a little easier for folks to fill out, but it's worthwhile. It's worth the effort to be a United Way agency. But we use that money we use for operating expenses, because we have to tell them what we want to use it for. So we tell them, we're not going to put it into a house, and it's how we operate. So that's all operating money.
Question?
Yeah.
I was just curious when we will know about the application we put in this year, or do we already know?
We already do know.
I can't remember. We got
5.
I thought it was 5. I thought it was, I can't remember it was definitely more than last year, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was around $5,000. We were notified, basically they do the site visit, and we tell them how great we are and how deserving we are. And then the committee chairs go back and put their heads together and figure out how to divvy up the money. And then they announce it, I guess that was probably maybe in June.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we found out, so,
Well, that's
And
good
the-
news.
Mhm.
yeah, that is. Okay, and then, home Choto operating support. So home money like starts out at the federal government. And that's, every year they have their, appropriations, process, and they make money available for the, to distribute to this, I guess, to the states. And then, in Pennsylvania, our home investment partnership program, that is money. So the federal money, the federal government, makes the money available to the states, then the state provides it to, to the borough, and then basically, and then the borough distributes to, not all to us, but we get some of it. Sometimes it's shared, sometimes not, but that's the big one. That's the one that we get enough chunks of money to like buy houses with.
So that's number, so the home fund's number 7.
I see.
Yeah.
That's right. This is operating support.
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is there is, we do get money. We can get a smaller amount of money for operating. Yes, and that's at number 7. That the borough gets that, and as it says here, it's divided up. We share it with the other agency, with the home foundation, and we can use that for operating. Okay, that it also says in here that's kind of why we need to have representation on our board from the area that we serve and the people that we serve. That's a requirement, right, Colleen?
That's right, yeah.
of
Mhm.
Being deserving of that money, so
Right.
that's, yeah. And then while I'm talking about it, jumping down to number 7, the home funds, that's what I kind of started out talking about, that's the one, that's the chunks of money we buy houses with. That's the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we can actually buy things with. A few years back, when the administration changed, we were eyeing it nervously, going, what's going to happen to our funding? Are we ever going to get home money again? And what would that mean for us? Would we turn into a maintenance organization, and have to stop growing if that funding source dried up? But that would be really difficult to replace that money. But fortunately that didn't happen. So, happy about that.
So Jay, how are the home funds divided between the land trust and the home foundation?
Well, we used to take turns, right, Colleen?
And I think
We'll do
they're still doing that, like right now. Yeah. So like fiscal year 2022 is the home foundation gets the home dollars. But every year we get the operating money, which obviously is a lot less, but this year, fiscal year 2022, is the home foundation.
Yeah, and I think the reason it's alternates, I mean, you kind of want it to be a significant enough amount of money to do something with it.
Right.
Instead of, here's money, you get half a house. Like, well, that's not really going to help us, but
Yeah.
so that's why it alternates.
So are those funds, oh, go ahead, Peter.
No, go ahead.
Are the home funds, do we just receive a lump sum, or is that something that, like, as we're saying we want to buy a house, then the borough releases funds to us?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. So the borough gets the money. Once they sign the contracts with the federal government, and then they can sign a contract with us. And so once the contract is signed, the money can then be released. And normally what we do is we use like that money just for the acquisition of the house, just because you can be a big amount and you can rather than doing like small amounts. So we use that for probably acquisition, some of the renovation costs, for developer fees, that kind of stuff all come out of that bucket.
And what does HOME stand for?
It's not an acronym. It's not.
Okay.
So yeah.
It's
So
for
I don't-
homes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
don't know.
federal program, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a
the home
word.
is a federal-
Okay.
Right. Right. That's capitalized.
Yeah. Yep, okay. Yeah, and then I guess, let's see, what did we skip here?
Could I
Trade-off.
butt in for a sec?
Sure.
I asked a question, but I was on mute. What are developers' fees?
Developers fees, tell you what, I'll talk about that in a minute when we get to the purchase cycle. 'Cause
Okay.
That's a good graphical place to see what those are and where they fit into
Okay,
the process there. Yeah, okay. So yeah, we just talked about home funds and DCED home funds.
Sorry.
Yes, those funds, Colleen, those still originate like federal level, right?
They do. And
Yeah.
then but then there's the specific ones, they come to the state, and then the state can distribute them to CHODOs, again, to community housing development organizations. But those ones are project specific, right? So you have to have a
Mhm.
project in mind. You have to have site control of it. So you can't just say, oh, we're probably going to buy a house in the next 2 years. Can we have the money? Because they won't give it to us. You have to have a site.
Okay.
Right, and do those flow through the borough as well? Or do we just get them straight from the state?
And everything comes through the borough, Colleen?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I thought, my understanding was that everything comes through the borough, but I'm checking with
The
Colleen.
borough, oh,
Is she there?
yeah, I think it does. I think it does.
Co- Colleen's muted.
Oh, okay.
I was coughing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She's
Yes, through the borough.
recharging her voice. Yeah. Yeah. We were just saying like all the money, all the federal money flows through the borough, right, to us? I mean, the boroughs, that's what we were asking.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And then fair money, that's state money, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so fair funds, and that's number 9 on our list there. That's as it says there, we can use that for energy rehab or that's project specific as well. Do we need to tell them what to do with it before they'll give it to us? Or is that
Uh,
the money, restricted use money that we can apply where we feel like it? And then tell them where we spent it?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And then, I got like fair funds. Okay, we're using those for the University Drive duplex. I think we're using every funding source for University Drive.
Yes.
Duplex. And then some. Yeah. Okay. Just checking the time here. Okay. And then the Center County. Oh yeah, that's sort of so there's some county money, and that's not a regular thing, right? But I mean, they kind of, they ended up with some cash, and they looked around for some shovel-ready project to spend it on, and Colleen raised our hands and said, hey, we've got some place that you can spend it. And they said we got, $50,000 there. So that's
And they just announced they're going to do it again.
oh, outstanding.
Ooh,
Nice. So those things pop up and then dry up at some point, but fortunately we can can see them and have something ready for it. That's great. And inclusionary housing funds. That's kind of become a regular source of funding because there's so much development going on. But in the borough, if you want to build your new high-rise downtown, the borough makes the developer factor in some low to moderate income housing capacity or addressing it in some manner. And they have the choice to designate some of the units in their high-rise to low moderate income homeowners, or they can find some other piece of real estate in the borough and put the units there. Like I think the Metropolitan, that was what their units are not in the Metropolitan because they wanted more rents there. They put them above the Dunkin' Donuts down on South Atherton. That's what those units above there are. So you can put them in your building, you can put them somewhere else in the borough, or you can pay into the bucket. Which that's kind of the easiest thing to do, is they pay money in the inclusionary housing fund, and then the borough has that pot of money that they can that we can ask for, and since we that's what we do. So we let's see what you said about it here. Yeah, anything over 6 units. So that's a lot. But yeah, we've used inclusionary housing. I think that's in the University Drive too, I think. But we bought whole houses with it, right, Colleen? In some instances.
Yes, we have. We bought it and then and then paid it back.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we use the money and then use the money, buy the house, and then do our thing. Peel off land and then hand them back the remainder. Okay, so that is sources. And Colleen, could you hop over to the purchase cycle thing since we're still talking about where money comes from? I'll slip that in here and then we'll come back to the uses of funds. That's okay.
I'm having trouble, but
Oh,
if anybody has questions, you should ask now.
yeah.
I don't even know how to do. Gosh.
I have a question.
Sure.
So it seems like all these programs, like the home and the Chodo fund, everything has to be project specific. Is that correct? They're not general funds.
Not everything. It's all restricted use, but it's not projects. Doesn't have to be project specific. Some of them are project specific, and some of them, just like our home, or
Stop share. Okay.
yeah, some of them are we can use it to buy houses with, but it doesn't. We don't have to identify it. So there's both. Yeah.
Do the inclusionary housing funds, are they used for other things across the borough, or is it only for like the land trusts and housing transitions? Who else might get that money?
Yeah.
It's used for other things, other housing related things.
Okay.
Yep. Oh my. I must have brain fog because I don't know what I'm doing. So like right now.
Let me see if maybe I can do it. Let me try it here. Let's see. I'm gonna try to share my screen.
Okay.
Share screen. Desktop 2.
Peter, I think you're muted.
Just
Hold on.
as well.
Zoom will not be able to record the contents of your screen until it's quit and reopened. I'll just do it later. Okay, let's see.
Are we still going through sources and uses of funds?
Yeah, well, yes, we are. We're just trying to bring up the housing purchase cycle,
There it is.
Oh, okay.
which doesn't. Hmm. Am I sharing anything?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, you can. Okay, great. Because I have no no sign of success. Great. Okay. So yeah, this we developed because we're kind of looking for a graphical representation to try to show what proceeds were and where it is in the land trust. So like the money that's flowing in from HUD that goes through the borough, or inclusionary housing, which kind of also really goes through the borough, that kind of pierces right through our outside and goes right into this proceeds, the light gray proceeds box in the middle. That's our pot of money that we can use to buy and renovate houses. So in this example here, so this proceeds bucket, we're using, $230,000 to purchase a house, and spending $70,000 to renovate that house. So that's all coming out of that proceeds bucket. So we've got this $300,000 in this house. And then when we sell it, we're obviously just selling the house and not the land. So we're selling it for, say, $150,000. Now, a portion, most of that money, goes back into the proceeds bucket to be used again. So in this instance, like $125,000 of that is kind of going back into proceeds. That can't buy a whole house, but put a couple together, that can buy something. So that goes back into the proceeds bucket. And then say 25,000 of those proceeds, that developers fees. That's the people putting money in our proceeds bucket realize that we're an organization and we've got overhead and we've got people, expenses and stuff. So we're allowed to accept a developer's fee because we're really the developer of that project. So that $25,000, that goes into just our general, overall, bucket of money that we can use for operating expenses. So that's what a developer fee is. It's for our overhead. It's what we can peel off of a project. And then this last line here, this ongoing lease fees, that's just showing that after that house is sold, that there's that small, like $20, $30 a month or whatever, that money comes in. That also goes to the land trust, the overall budget there. So I think this really shows, like, this proceeds bucket. I mean, it's got a big hole in the bottom of it. So the money still has to be flowing into the proceeds bucket. Otherwise, if we're spending 300 on a project and only 125 goes back in, that's going to dry that bucket out pretty quickly, unless we have more money pouring into the top to keep us going.
So, Jay, I'll chime in with a question on the developer fees. I understand how the developer of a high rise, how that generates developer fees, and we get a share of it. How does it work for us? I mean, we're just a similar developer.
Well, I think in this case that we're using the same name, as a developer, like whether you're developing a high rise or developing a duplex for low. So that's really the name, but we're not really, we're not, since normally a developer would develop something and there's a profit that they take a slice of, and basically the developer fee is all the profit, and then because they have their costs, they build something, and all the profit is just scraped back from them, and that's their developer fee. But in this case, our developer fee is really, we could call it an overhead, allowance or something. It's just,
Okay.
yeah, it's just because they, like I said, our funding sources, our funders realized that we couldn't operate with doing this and not having any money flowing back in to pay, because we have overhead and we have administrative costs, and we let them know what they are, and so that borough knows like how much we take in, and so they know we're not getting carried away. But that's a very necessary acknowledgement that we have overhead to cover, and if they want us to keep administering this program, we're entitled to a portion of that.
Okay, that for me resolves a huge question mark. It's really, unless there's some reason the borough needs to call them developer fees, I get that it's not the same thing as developer fees that we get from the borough because of other development that's going on.
Yeah, and I think, we do have that funding source identified as inclusionary housing funds. So, we aren't calling that developer fee money. It comes from developers, I guess, but that's, we call it inclusionary housing fund, but yeah, we could, but it's definitely got to think of it as overhead allowance or something.
Yeah, okay. And in our accounts, well, I guess we'll get to that later, exactly how whether we treat them the same as borough inclusionary funds we get from the borough, as opposed to quote overhead funds that we generate ourselves.
We don't, like the inclusionary housing money goes straight into the proceeds bucket and stay, it doesn't, that we can't do anything else with that. That's buying and renovating stuff. The developer fee money goes into the dark gray box, and that goes into the unrestricted. We can use it for what we, whatever we want.
Okay, all right.
And if the borough, in looking at our quarterly statements, that the borough saw that we're like, paying exorbitant salaries or not being responsible, then they might say, hey, your developer fee is too big. Or conversely, we even talked about perhaps talking about increasing our developer fee as our overhead gets bigger. We can make a case to say, hey, we've got more overhead, we're growing and we need more people, and so we maybe make that $30,000. That's possible. We haven't tried that, but
okay. Somebody else had a question about developer fees. Did it get answered?
Yes.
okay, great. All right. Let me see if I can. I'm going to go back here and pull this back up. Okay. Hey, I like driving. I'll keep doing it. Okay. So then we get down to the uses of funds. Okay, so we've got operating costs, which are pretty self-explanatory. We have those outlined in our budget. We've got our, it's kind of small, but so got our operating costs, all our various people to pay and bills and audits, what have you. So those are operating. Keep going to the top. Acquisitions, of course, when we're buying homes. And soft cost, there's hard costs, the actual, buying it, and then the ancillary fees that, everyone pays when you buy real estate. We got to pay those too. So that's those. Our rehab hard costs, that's all the, contractors and materials and everything that goes into our renovations. And there's also cost to some soft cost or whatever, or ancillary costs for rehabbing that, keeping an eye on the project and doing our energy audits and those kinds of things that don't end up physically in the house, but it's just a part of our renovation process. And we do our testing for lead. There are carrying costs involved. Hopefully those, we always have them while we're doing our renovations. On occasion, rare occasion, we actually have a house that we need to carry for a long extended period of time. The real estate taxes still have to be paid and the utilities and the lawn has to be mowed and all that kind of stuff. So if there's not a homeowner in it, that the land trust has to pay those carrying costs. And then closing cost assistance, we offer some closing cost assistance because that buying a house is pretty expensive. So, and our buyers aren't really economically in a position to pay the full boat. So we can help out with that. I mean, is that, Colleen, does everyone take advantage of that, or some people, or? That I'm not sure.
Yeah, most of the time people take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
I have a question there.
sure.
When I bought my house, they said that it no longer was the case that, that the loan would be considered repaid after 30 years. Is that what it says here? Oh, no, yeah. These loans are forgiven over a time of 3.33%. So they told me that's not happening anymore.
Okay, I thought that it was, so I don't know if that's the
Oh,
case.
so the loan will just stay there however long and at the full amount? Is that what your understanding is?
Yeah.
Okay.
But of course, if I don't sell the house or, I pass away and give it to someone, it's still not due.
Strange.
Okay, well, we may have to revise that last one.
Well, if it's still the case, I may have been the exception.
Oh, you're singled out for special treatment.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I want to, does anybody have any more questions about these?
Yeah, Jay, which of these are included in the budget report that the board gets? Just the first one, the operating costs, and all the others are on somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay. And the somewhere else, is that on the balance sheet?
That would be on the, you've got columns for everything on the big cash flow, right? The operating.
What? Say it again.
I'm wondering if all those are on the or columns. Well, the income wise, like they would have a column on our on not on the board report, but on the one that the finance review, the checkbook register one.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that I don't know. That's the one I don't have access to because I couldn't get to it.
Right. So I need to I can bring it up if you want me to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Maybe we can talk later about where. So they're on the sources and uses of funds. I think I'm distracting from the main thrust here, but I'm still a little confused where 2 through 8 resides. And
Oh, you mean like how we're keeping track of which, all those little pots of money, like where the balances of those are?
yeah, the board doesn't see,
The board does not see that, but as I think if we can pull, Colleen's working on pulling up the wide checkbook register one that we look at in
right,
finance.
right, okay,
Yeah, that one, like,
okay,
there's a column there, it says home Chodo, and it has home operating, and it has, so across the top of that,
Ah,
yes. So that's kind of where Colleen is keeping track of those. Because yeah, if you scroll across, it's too wide to print. So it's not really, as far as printing it out and sharing it with the board or whatever, but we've got, columns and like, balances, at the bottom of the sheet, like how much is left of those. So
okay,
that would.
thank you.
Yeah, and this is basically on a personal level, this is like our checkbook register. This is kind of the accounting work that Colleen does. That's, when she pays something or money comes in, she's using this to keep track of those things. So there's kind of multiple levels of accounting here. Like this is the Colleen level of like our checkbook register. And then we have call it a bookkeeper, like coming in like once a month. Colleen, how often?
Yeah, they come in. We do. I drop off things for them to write checks for weekly, and then they do a report once a month. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And we have like QuickBooks, like a software system that we get reports, and the finance committee sees that as well, like a little balance sheet and income statement, like the normal financial information that spits out of that. And then come the end of the year, we have audited, because we're a nonprofit and we have all this, all these sources of funds. We have to produce audited financial statements, which, that costs a lot of money, but it's required. So we had, at the end of the year, we have Fidelity, we have an accounting firm that does our tax return, and they do the audited statements, and they take a long time to do, but they eventually come out. And they cost like $7,000, $8,000. They're kind of expensive, but so it's kind of the cost of doing our business. But
Wait, I have a question, Jay.
yeah,
Joe Vitelli, isn't he the finance guy for COG?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know that. I mean,
Is that okay to have? Or I don't know. It seems like okay.
well, he is a partner in a sizable CPA firm. So there's not, there isn't really conflicts there.
Okay.
Because they
I see.
audited statements are, they're highly looked over, I guess you could say.
Okay, but
the highest
he's the
level.
finance guy for Center. Okay, got it.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he used to do our statements, and then we switched firms, and then we did a little shopping again, and then basically hardly anybody bid on the business, including our existing firm. But fortunately, he raised his hand to do it again.
And Kathy, I think you're thinking of Joe Vigilone.
I am.
You are. So he is an employee of COG, and but Joe Fideli is part of a CPA.
Different Joe
Yeah.
entirely. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thank you, Colleen.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that was the end of my list of what I wanted to go over. I don't know if you want to look at the budget, the board of director report. I mean, that's the one we see every month. That's, just as, every fall we work on the following year budget. We set that up and put it in the put it on the leftmost column of our board of director report, and then over the over the year, we just keep updating quarter by quarter and month by month, and just to show our progress. And in 6 years, I can't really remember us ever like coming in significantly over budget. So I think our budget's usually pretty accurate.
Do you see that? I don't know, Jay, if you want
But
to
no,
talk
we're
about
still, I
the
think on
cash
the,
flow.
we're still seeing those funding sources
Oh,
on
okay.
the shared part of it there.
Oh, okay.
But
So could we just ask questions about the report?
sure.
Is there an amount budgeted for remote tech support and strategic planning? Because I know we're going to do.
No,
strategic
there is
planning.
not. Colleen did put a couple rows in the bottom there, but there's obviously since it wasn't budgeted, there isn't an amount to put there. But we do want to look at it, like show it somehow. So we really can't show. I mean, when we start spending money on that, we can put that in there as like the actual expenses for that month. But that will end up causing us to be over budget. But we'll be able to see exactly, exactly how much and why. So if we spend $5,000 on a remote, if we spend like $1,000 on remote tech support and we're $1,000 over budget, we can point back to that and go, that's why. So I don't think it'll distort our budget, monitoring, but she did. You can see the bottom there that Colleen put a couple of rows on there for those unbudgeted items.
Okay, and then the other question I have is under funds used to pay expenses, the third line is the program income, and it combines lease fees, United Way, and interest. And I'm just curious what we get per month or per year from the lease fees alone. Does anyone know that?
It's about, I've estimated this. It's about, I mean, the easy way to do it is take 50 houses times 12 times 20, and that'll be a little bit low. And
Right, I was thinking that, but then I thought, oh, I don't know which ones are at what rate.
Yeah, so I mean, just to give you an idea, like, yeah, I would take 50 times 12 times 20, and it'll be more than that, but.
Okay.
12 grand.
I think on my side, like of the spreadsheets that I've been using for the lease fees, I think it's around like $1,100 right now is what we would expect monthly.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. Any other questions while we're here and together?
Nope, this has been very helpful. Thank you, Jay, for doing this.
Oh. Thank you, Colleen, for putting together our sources and uses list. That will be helpful for years to come.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to thank you both, and Laura, my wife, I've told her what we were doing tonight, and she said, well, why don't you require everybody on the board to be there?
Yes.
And she has a point. I think once we get the recording, I think it would be worth, I'll encourage, or Jay, you can encourage
Yeah.
that everybody.
If there's a way we can monitor to keep people from fast forwarding through it, so we know that they watched it all.
I think the online schools that have online courses must have ways of doing that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I
No,
do
yeah,
not.
we can. Yeah, that's a great idea. We can, like, maybe Colleen, with the next board meeting, we could, like, in the invite, you could put a link to figure out how to get it onto a server or something
Okay.
provide people a link so they could click it and watch it.
Okay. And I think we had talked about whether or not, like, if we wanted to try to, to do this again, but maybe during the day. So if,
Yeah.
like, for people too, that if, if we could pick another day, like later in the fall, and do that too. if
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, we'll get different questions. So that's
right.
great.
Well, Colin, thank you very much for making that sheet, especially with the sources and uses of funds. That, to me, defining all those programs and explaining a little bit about them is really will be valuable to a lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
And my
You
only
know
hope,
that. Yeah, I found it very helpful. Thank you, Colleen.
sure.
my hope doesn't cause doing it didn't cause you to get COVID.
No, but I'm really glad, in some ways, I'm glad that we decided to do it. Well, I'm really glad we decided to do it online, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I'm really glad I'm not in the office. So,
Yes.
Yeah,
so, yeah. So,
that's good.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, it would have been great to see you all in person, but
Yeah.
timing wise, it just didn't work out. So I'm
Right.
glad we have this option.
Yep.
Before we go, can you tell me again what CHODO is?
community housing
Community
development organization.
Development.
Okay,
And we have to fill out a form every year as board members about being on the CHODO, right? Is
That's
that
right.
what-
That's right.
So,
And actually, I'm going to ask them to add that part, because when I asked all of you to, whether or not you identify as a person of color, that's not something that's on there. So, which then I was thinking, well, that's what we should do, because then, it's already there when people are already filling out everything. So I think that I'm going to ask them to add that to that form. So.
That makes sense.
Great. Well, I'm going to sign off. Nice to
Yep,
see you
well,
guys.
All right,
thank
thanks.
Take
thank
care.
you all.
See
Okay.
you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Feel better,
Take care.
Colleen.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks.
Yeah, feel
I
better.
feel better.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
bye.
Bye.